So have you been feeling kind of blah or maybe uninspired? Or maybe you're having worry and fear because of everything that's happening in the world. Whether it's blah, worry, uninspired, my spirit guides want me to share with you their guidance on how creativity can actually transform all of this. It can take you from that blah, uninspired, maybe worried feeling to joy, joy, joy. And the reason why they're saying this is so important is because they're saying most people, and they don't know if this is you, but if you're staying tuned in, maybe it is, go through life kind of at the blah level, uninspired level. Maybe worry, and so you can't tell where you are on that. But they said that really you're meant to be living a joyful, fulfilled life. But if you've just been on what they call automatic mode, getting up every day, doing the kind of the same thing, then that can create that feeling of blah. And they want to share with you a lot more about that. But what we're going to do right now is invite in Mother Mary, because here I am painting Mother Mary some more today. And they're going to give us some intuitive guidance on how you can actually stop the blahs and move to joy. And part of that they've made very clear is about using your creative muscle. And they're going to talk more about that here. But they want me to go ahead and start with a little ritual, because part about welcome you to my sacred art studio. I always sometimes forget to introduce myself. I'm Deepa. I call myself the Creative Mystic, and this is my sacred art studio, and it's about creating sacred space. And it's not just sacred space here in the physical space of my art studio, but where you are. And that sacred space, the most important sacred space they always have me talk about, because it warrants repetition, because we fall away from it all the time, is the sacred space within you. Some might call it the path of awakening, some might call it becoming enlightened, some might call it just spiritual growth. Whatever you call it doesn't matter, but it's about how can you actually start to consciously put energy towards, is what they're saying, towards your path of awakening, towards awakening to your true self, because that is what you want to awaken to your God self within you. We're all one, there is no division, but yet we've been programmed to think there is. And so we're going to invite in Mother Mary in all of her magnificent forms. Hi, Lil, thanks for coming. And I'm so glad to see y'all. If you'd like to introduce yourself, I always like to introduce yourself. If you want to put where you're from, put a shout out there, because sometimes you find someone who's in the same town. It's happened before sometimes. So, but let's bring in and invite in. I'm going to be inviting in Mother Mary in her distinct form. I don't know. She comes in many different forms. You'll see I have her in different places here. There's Mother of Love, Mother of the Universe. Mother Mary, the Divine Mother, comes to me in many different forms, and she's available here for you. But you may have a different spirit guide. I also see angels and fairies that come to me. And so you get to choose what energy you want to invite in. But the idea is when I ring this bell to say hello to that. Now I'm going to say hello, Mother Mary, hello, Divine Mother, so that whatever form of the Divine Feminine that you relate to, you can invoke in, because the Divine Feminine is so important because it makes you receptive. And being in the flow of creativity, we want receptivity, okay? So let's go ahead and take a moment and take that deep belly breath where you just start to bring your energy, your focus. And on that next deep belly inhalation, just draw on the energy of focus. And on the exhalation, let go of any distractions, any busyness of the day. And when I ring this bell, I want you to say hello, Divine Mother, okay? In whatever form you feel called to. So hello, Divine Mother. Hello, Mother Mary. Mother Mary of light. Mother Mary bowing to the soul in you and in the soul in her. We welcome in this divine presence to create sacred space in our physical space, and most importantly, the sacred space within ourselves, that we awaken to our one true selves, to our spiritual gifts, to our path of awakening to your true self, your spiritual soul, your God self, whatever name you give it. We invite in Divine Mother, Mother Mary, to permeate every fiber of our being so that we are awake. Just feel the vibrations of the bell penetrating every fiber of your being, awakening yourself to your divine self. And say thank you, thank you, thank you. Whether you notice anything or not, you affirm thank you. Because when you say thank you, what does that mean? You already have it, right? It already is. Because like they talk about, there is no creation really when we're doing this. It's already here. And so it's about how do you actually connect with that. So if you've been feeling blah or uninspired, you want to acknowledge that. Like, have you been going through life, she's been saying, she says, but just kind of doing the same old thing. Kind of feeling like, don't know what to do, but I'm just doing the next thing that I'm supposed to do, you know. Get up, brush my teeth, take a shower, go to work, come home, you know, eat my meals, take care of the kids if you have kids, you know, but you're just kind of doing the mundane without really being 100% present in your joyful self or 100% present in your divine self. And she's saying that creativity can help you with that. Whenever you feel like you're kind of in that, oh, I'm just kind of going through the motions. That's what she's saying. I kept saying doing this, like going, and I couldn't figure out what she was saying. And it was like going through the motions. You know, you go through the motions of your day, of going to work, you know, but yet never really feeling inspired or never really feeling like joy. And she's saying that is not how you're meant to be. You are meant to be inspired. You are meant to feel joy. You are meant to create. And she's talking about creation, not just the creative act, like here I am painting, okay, but also in the creation of your life. Because she says that what creates the feeling of blah or uninspired or worry or fear is that you think life is happening to you rather than you are creating your life. So there's a lot of misunderstanding about being the creator of your reality and when you're manifesting and creating and when you're not. And I remember going to a training once years ago, and this person gave out like a laminated card, and it said, on these emotions you're creating, on these you're not. So she had like the lower emotions of anxiety, fear, worry, saying you're not. And on the upper, she was saying you were. And I looked at that and I went, this is so far from the truth. We are always creating, manifesting. It's just a matter, are you creating and manifesting something that you desire or something you don't like? And when you're in the worry and anxieties and fears, you're creating things you don't like that create more worry, anxiety, and fear. And when you're in the upper emotions, which means you're telling yourself maybe some truth, you know, that then you're creating things that you love. So when you're in the energy of love, you're creating more things that you love. And so you want to understand that they're saying is that you're always creating in the sense of your energy that you're putting forth is a creative force, is what they're saying. They're showing this kind of force that it is, and that you want to be more conscious about that. So that instead of thinking that you just, like, if you think life is happening to you, you feel like you're a victim to it, that creates blah and uninspired and worry and fear, okay? But when you actually go, wait a minute, I can actually choose something that will help me to shift my thoughts, my story, and that which helps shift your emotions. And that is actually doing a creative act, okay? Because that creative act puts you, especially if you do a prayer and you connect like what we did first before you do that creative act. And then as you're doing the creative act, you then start to continue, I should say. They're saying continue to just keep affirming that that higher power is guiding what you're creating, guiding what you're doing, guiding what you're thinking, guiding what you're speaking, okay? And so you want to start to look at that. Now, if you're watching this, I'm assuming you're a spiritual seeker at some level, and it's about consciously connecting with being that spiritual seeker and like asking yourself, where do you want to grow? You know, what part of you spiritually do you want to grow? And so I'm just going to put a little poll up here for anybody who wants to answer it. As a spiritual seeker, are you having something you want to grow in? And I put up intuition, because that's the big one I get a lot of. Path of enlightenment. Are you in the path of awakening where you want to be enlightened? Maybe you want to but don't think it's possible, but just I'd love to know if you're even interested in that. Or maybe you want both. And I wish there was a fill-in, but there isn't on this. So feel free to fill it out if you'd like to. I'd love to see it and see, you know, what you're feeling. Because, and if you watch this in the replay, please put it in the comments, because, you know, just answering the question can make you more aware of it. And that's the thing about questions. You know, I ask questions, I say things, because I know if I ask you a question, it's going to bring it to the forefront of your mind. Even if you might go, I'm not interested in that. Neither one of them. It's still like, and you go, oh, what do I want to grow spiritually? And that's the important part, is what is in your heart's desire of where you want to grow spiritually. Now, I would think if you're worried or feeling blah or uninspired, you want to grow in the area of that I can actually change this. Because one of the first spiritual laws, if you really want to empower yourself, you want to be fully empowered in your spiritual self, is to take 100% responsibility for everything in your life. Now, this is really challenging for most people to do. It's still something I'm practicing. I take responsibility for much more than I ever used to. And I still can fall to sometimes in that energy of, you know, like, and feeling frustrated with somebody else because they didn't do what I wanted, right? And that's a clear sign you're not taking 100% responsibility when you're mad at someone else, frustrated at someone else because of what they did. Rather than going, getting curious and going, what did I do, or what am I doing, or what am I believing that's creating this in my life? And so the creative power of acting on, put this back on comments so I can see if anybody says anything. The creative practice of bringing together a prayer and an intention and spiritual practices in a creative act. Now, I'm going to go start painting here. They're telling me to start painting. They're going to be sharing more. That's the thing about when I create the Spirit Guide portal, they keep coming through and telling me more to talk about. It usually stays on topic, but sometimes it doesn't. They're telling me if you want to ask a question, feel free to put it in the chat, and I will ask them to answer it for you if you have one. Maybe you're struggling with feeling blah or worried about what's going on in the world, and you have a question about it, about how you can shift. But one of the things that Mother Mary, Divine Mother, wants you to get is that the act of creating. And you want to be creating something that you love. So I love making things. I don't know if you do, but I love making all kinds of things. I love making spirit guide portals. I love making, like one time I made a harp. I love making things. I've been recently starting to knit just to see how that feels. And it's very calming. I love that too. And I love to like make music with my instruments, even if I'm not, like a master at them, but I love doing it. So, okay, Rainbow. Oh, you're interested in both. Yeah, and John, yeah, it's that, and that's the thing about on the spiritual journey. I tell people on the path of awakening, you want to be aware of what kinds of questions you're asking yourself, because the kind of question that you ask yourself determines the kind of answer that you get. And so when you're looking to grow spiritually, you don't want to ask, why am I not growing spiritually? Because it's going to tell you why you're not, right? But you want to ask, like, well, what do I need to do differently to attain enlightenment or to attain God realization, or maybe just to attain more patience and love? Because one of the things when you're growing spiritually that you want to look at, because sometimes people on the path of awakening, they want this to be this little snap, like snap, I'm fully enlightened, nothing bothers me anymore, I'm always patient, I'm always like joyful, yet they see themselves not always be, and then they judge themselves. Especially if they get angry or frustrated, they can judge themselves like, well, this isn't very spiritual. And the path of awakening is really a moment by moment growth. And the way you start to stay on it and see your growth is to acknowledge the small little growths that you have. Not that they don't have to be big. They can be just small little things that maybe you were in a situation where something used to cause a trigger where you would react. Or maybe you would have something happen that would cause you to all of a sudden get bummed and blah, or not care, where you get apathetic. Because blah is kind of is apathy. And apathy is not believing that you're the creator of your reality, because apathy is a sign that you're giving up. Now, you never ever, I always tell people, until you're dead in a box, is there any reason to give up? You're never too old, you're never too young, you're never too anything. You're never not smart enough, you're never not beautiful enough. All that's happening is that negative voice that tells you that you're not enough. And that, when you're in blah or uninspired mode, it means you're not feeling like you're empowered. And that first step of empowering yourself is to start to go, wait a minute, I'm 100% responsible for everything that's happening in my life, and I can do something different so that it can be different. And the first cause that needs to be done differently is to get into a different consciousness. So it's one of the reasons why a creative act, like maybe painting or woodwork or whatever you love, can shift you. Because when you get into this creative act, what are you doing? Especially if you're a creative mystic like me, if you're a creative person who's a spiritual seeker, you want to be a creative mystic where you're looking for that direct experience and you're inviting in spirit to be with you, because that invitation means they're flowing through you. So I'm going to take a moment here and do a little prayer to Mother Mary, and before I start painting. Okay? And if you want to answer the poll, please do so. And if you have a creative thing you like to do, please bring it in with what you're doing, because it's so life-giving when we have synergy of people doing it together. And we don't have to be in person as far as physically, but if we're energetically connected through the internet, it brings that synergy still, because you consciously then can bring it in. So let me just take a moment of quiet. I want you to take a moment too And I'm going to connect with Mother Mary and ask her what she wants me to paint as I continue to share with you what she has to share about creativity and the blahs, and actually owning 100% responsibility in your life so that you can be the empowered soul that you are. So, one of the things Mother Mary's talking about is, she's telling me to do this, more of this out here, more of it. So, Mother Mary's talking about the creative act, and why it's so powerful is because you are actually this creative soul, this creative being. And when you own the fact that, gee, I love creating something, and maybe you don't know what that creation is. You might be thinking, I don't think I love making things yet. I don't love creating because it's makes me feel like I'm not good enough, or if I start to feel like I'm not doing a good job. She's saying, well, that's not your true self. That's your ego, your subconscious mind trying to tell you that you're not good enough. So whenever you're judging yourself, you don't like something because you don't think you're good at it, she says that's not being in that creative energy. That you really want to be in the creative energy of just let me do it and see what happens, because that allows you to own your empowerment. See, because empowerment isn't that you have control about anyone else. It's about you're connecting to the truth of who you are, which is you're this spiritual soul, this spiritual being here to create what is in your heart's desires, she's saying. Now, she's wanting me to tell you a little bit about this portal, this spirit guide portal, that right now you can see she's in the prayer position, hands prayer position, and she's saying that she wants you to understand that in the yogic tradition, when somebody's doing what some people call prayer position, some call it namaste, that this, they talk about it as being the soul in me bows to the soul in you. And she's saying that this particular spirit guide portal is all about helping you to connect with your soul self. That it's so important when you're doing creativity to connect with the soul self. The soul self is your true self. Okay, and you want to start connecting with that, because then as you create, whenever you're making something, are you worried about what's happening in the world, or worried if you made a mistake? Not when you really get into it, right? If you really get into what you're creating, all the worry drops away. You start to feel inspired by what you're making. But most of what you're feeling inspired about, she's saying, is the divine flow that's coming through you. She's saying that you have access to that divine flow all the time, And when you're struggling, let's say you're in the blahs, or you're in an uninspired place, or you're worried, that one of the greatest things that helps you to get out of it is when you do a creative project. You do something, and it's important, she's saying, that it's a creative project that you love. You don't want to be doing a creative project that someone else loves and you're just kind of doing it because like, oh, wow. She says you want to do it because you love it. And if you don't have one at this point, she's asking you to be willing to go out and experiment and try one. I'm going to step out of the frame for a minute just so I can see things. Because one thing about oil painting is you need to step out, see the painting from a distance. And again, that's in life. You know, sometimes you want to take a step back. That's why in the beginning, when you get on, we do that moment of doing the prayer, ringing the bell, because we're taking that moment to create that sacred space in yourself where you listen to yourself. That sacred space is always there, but it's whether or not you actually notice it, that it's there. And so one of the things that I've been given guidance on from Mother Mary is to create more content, more videos, sharing with you some of the different spiritual practices that I do that help me in my awakening process, that have brought me and other people really positive experiences, uplifted experiences. I'm just curious for anybody who watches this or is on live now, is that something that you'd be interested in? I know if you're still on the rainbow, you mentioned you want both intuition and enlightenment, so I think it's something you'd be wanting to do. Let me just look real quick here, see if there's any questions. What does honesty mean to you today? John, that is something, honesty is something that I practice every day. In order to be like awake, you have to practice honesty. You know, to be awake, to be enlightened, you can't be someone who goes around lying all the time. And why is that? Because that means if you're lying, you're out of alignment with your true self. You know, there's these principles in yoga. They call them, what do they call them? I'm drawing a blank on what they call them now. I don't know why, but I am. But anyway, when I taught yoga, I'm a yoga teacher too. I don't teach live classes now, but there's two, yamas and niyamas, that's what they're called. I don't know why I drew a blank on that. But those yamas and niyamas, there's one called satya, which means truth. And when you actually practice, and the most important satya to practice, the truth to practice, is with yourself. About really being honest with yourself of where you are in that moment, in that day. You know, so satya. And then the other one, so if you, for honesty, if you're not being honest with yourself, and honesty doesn't mean you sit there and say, oh, I'm going to pretend and lie to myself about something. It's about something you don't even acknowledge. Like if you are, let's say, you know, one of the reasons why I used to bring it up in yoga, in a yoga class, is because it was about honoring and being honest with yourself so that you didn't hurt yourself. So see, so sometimes people go to classes or trainings or exercise and they're trying to keep up with everybody else in the class. But yet maybe they're not really up for that because they didn't sleep that much, or they have like maybe a kink in their neck or their back. And when you practice satya, honesty, truthfulness, it's actually truthfulness, which is the same as honesty in some ways, then you go, well, even though everybody else is doing this, this is not for me today because I have this little backache or this little something. So I'm just curious, has anybody had that experience where you've went and done something and you haven't been totally practicing satya, truthfulness, honesty with yourself, and you go along with the crowd just because you don't want to make waves, or you are afraid what people will think. And if you're afraid about what people will think, it's again being outside. It's not being 100% responsible for your life and yourself. So we talked about how you have to be 100% responsible to be empowered. And if you want to get out of the blahs, right, and the uninspired feeling or the worry and the fear, is that you have to start to take 100% responsibility in that it empowers you, because you, instead of thinking your life's happening to you, you start to go, well, if I'm 100% responsible about it, that means I can actually change this by changing my consciousness, by doing something different, by thinking and believing something different. Now, it's more important to change your consciousness, your belief system, than it is just to what you do differently. But doing is the easiest for people to start with. So I never ever tell people not to start to do something different when they feel a certain way, because the doing can actually lead to the consciousness changing. So but she's saying that if you want to really start to practice letting go of that uninspired, going through the motions, automatic pilot life, start to create with spirit. Start to actually go, you know what? I'm going to pick something I love to make, and I'm not going to just do it from a perspective of myself. And the reason why she's saying this because when you get to doing it like, I'm going to do this, I, me, my, like you're doing it from your point of your subconscious mind, what will happen is that voice will come in and start to judge your work, judge you. You don't know what you're doing, you're not very good. And for some reason she's telling me, she wants me to tell you about when I many years ago was coaching somebody, and this is long before I actually worked with my spirit guides in my coaching. My mentoring coaching now is led by my spirit guides from that higher consciousness place. But when I first started coaching, I had a client that she kept never feeling good enough. And she kept saying, well, if I get this other training or I get this other certificate, then I'll be ready. And that's the voice of your subconscious mind, your ego, that's trying to hold you and stop you. Because the thing I always tell you is that your subconscious mind will keep trying to keep everything the same. Safety, security, sameness. So if you're not wanting to change anything and you're not changing anything, you're in your subconscious mind. And that's just no judgment. If that's where you're comfortable and you don't want to grow spiritually, you don't want to judge yourself, that's fine. But you want to know that's where you are, and that's why you're having struggle, and that's why you're having maybe the blah and uninspired feeling. You have to be in a place, she's saying, that you're ready, you're willing to go, you know what, I'm willing to start to do something different. I'm willing to do something new and different. So let me see here. We got some different people saying things. Oh, Rainbow, I like that question. Well, the one thing is about ask yourself, are you actually practicing satya, truthfulness? Am I actually being honest with myself? If I take a moment and I check in with myself, like you breathe and you ask yourself. So I always call it the power of the pause. You take that moment to pause and go, am I really up for this? am I being honest with myself, acknowledging really where I am today? Because that's part of the path of awakening, is acknowledging what you're up for today at that moment. Now, that doesn't mean you never ever stretch yourself and you're never going to do something you're uncomfortable with, because you are when you're on the path of awakening. You know, that we get stuck in our paradigms of what we like, and so we sometimes don't want to go out beyond that comfort zone. But you want to be checking in with yourself, because if you're not honoring what's going on with you, you will never become fully awake, because part of that awakening is honoring yourself. So to help reframe it, you want to, well, like if you're having anxiety, what I recommend is really one, acknowledging that you're having it. Okay. And I don't know, Rainbow, because I think I've seen you sign before, but I don't know if you're an empath or highly sensitive, because if you are, sometimes you're picking up, and I'm an empath, so I pick up on other people's emotions. So if by chance you are an empath or highly sensitive, one of the things you want to do with your anxiety, if you're having it, is to check in to find out if it really is yours, first of all, because you could be picking up on it from someone else. So one of the things I do is I say, if this is mine, let me express it in a healthy way, because you want to honor, because it's about satya, right? Honoring your truth about where you are, what you're feeling emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, okay, where you are. And so I say, if this is mine, let me express it in a healthy way. And if it's not, let me release it. And if that emotion is something I picked up from somebody, it just starts to dissipate and it drops off for me. So if by chance you're an empath, Rainbow, do that, okay? Because that makes a difference. But give me a little bit more, Rainbow, about how your anxiety prevents you from doing your creative practice. Is there like a story you're telling yourself, like, you know, it's crummy or it doesn't do any good? Because then I can give you a different reframe question. But go ahead and put that in there and let me know. So then, John, you asked, what is the truest thing about you, about me? Well, from a spiritual perspective, the truest thing about me is that I'm a spiritual being. And that is something I am always continually remembering and reminding myself of. Okay? Yeah, I'm glad that you think the truest thing about you is what you feel. And I don't know what how you're using the word feel, John, because if it's your emotions, sometimes the emotion you're having is there, because I have found that the emotions that we're having, if they are more, let's say, downward pulling emotions like worry, anxiety, fear, that those happen not because it's really truly what you feel. It's a story you're telling yourself that probably isn't true. That's based on the programming of falsehood that we've gotten growing up. So, you know, like the belief that you're not good enough, or that you couldn't learn something new, or that you're not good at math, or that, you know, that we believe all these physical things or mental things that we cause limitation. And so I'm always looking to let go of those limitations. I have them just like you do, but I'm like, when I catch myself being aware of like, oh, I'm putting a limitation on myself, I'm like, how can I release that? Because all things are possible. And that was my spirit guide portal that I was working on for several weeks here on this live, which was Archangel Michael and the Flying Horse, is that their whole message and blessing they want to give you is that miracles are here. All things are possible. And what they're talking about with miracles is that anything you don't think can happen, in your mind, it's a miracle when it does happen. But yet, all things are possible. So anyway, I don't see any other things right now. I'll check back in a few. Go back to painting. Yeah, whatever you're thinking, and unless you're fully awake, John, most people, what they're thinking, and if you're really aware, you'll notice that you'll have some kind of dialogue going on, in your head. And often that dialogue is, for a lot of people, is self-condemnation, judging others, judging a situation. And so if that's what's happening, it tells you you're actually in your subconscious mind, not in your higher self. That's the whole reason why the spirit guides started coming to me. They said that we're here to help all the souls on the planet, anyone who's open to it, to start to get higher guidance, because so many people are stuck in their limitations, are stuck in the untruths they've been programmed with, are stuck thinking that they're not good enough, and they want to transform that and help people to start to see themselves as the spiritual soul they truly are. Because if you're watching this, whether it's live or you're going to watch it in the replay, that you are this amazing spiritual soul that is here to actually be this powerful being that can transform not only things in your life, but help to transform things in the world into a more uplifting, loving, joyful, harmonious place. Because when we're truly awake, there is no them, so then there will be no war. And it's one of the things that I hope to see in my lifetime. I don't know if it will be, but that's my intention, is what can I do to help bring more of these positive energies in? Let me see here. Let's see. Rainbow, I feel you. It's my own challenges sometimes, like I don't paint because my programming will kick in, because I'm on this path of awakening with you, sharing what works for me. But I tell people I still need to awaken more. But when that voice comes up, it can stop you from actually creating, because you think, oh, I need to do the responsible thing. I need to do this other thing that's logical, that I think is going to bring in whatever or do whatever. And it's about, how do you actually do what's true? Now, it doesn't mean you ignore if you have kids or other, responsibilities. You have a job that you've agreed that you're going to go to, that you don't go to it. But it's about, like, maybe you can't do it in that instant, but how can you do it? And you have to start to become aware. It's one of the reasons that in the beginning, when we're wanting to create sacred space, I don't know if you were on in the beginning, but it's about, how do we create sacred space within you? Because that's the most important sacred space that my spirit guides are always talking about. And that this Sacred Art Studio, I talk about creating the sacred space in the physical space, because that can help you to stay in that place. But most importantly, how do you create the sacred space within yourself? And that's about being aware of when you're not in the sacred space. When you're, like, if you catch yourself in worry about, anytime you're worried about what other people think, when you're worried about what's going to happen in the world in the future, you're not awake in that sacred self in you. So, in order to be awake in that sacred self in you, you have to have all your energy in the present moment. And that is a challenge for most people to do. Most people, and I'm curious if people want to put up whether it's there or not, are projecting into the future of what might happen or what they have to do, or worried about the past or thinking about the past. And if you're in past or future, you are not awake in your true self. Because the true self, it's only in the present moment. There is no past. There is no future when you're awake in spirit, when you're awake in your true self. It's all about just so one of the things too, the things I'm talking about today, I'm going to be launching a membership called the Creative Mystic Temple. I don't have a date yet, but anybody who might want to or be interested in having a spiritual community that helps support you in your spiritual growth and in, you know, your path of awakening and doing your creative work, because it is, I have found that creating is part of the path of awakening. You need it to become awake. It helps you to connect, to get out of that blah space. I'm just going to put it up. It's my, here we go. You can go to sign up for my membership waiting list. The people, anybody who joins the membership in that launch will get a special price and some extra benefits. I think I'm going to be offering, like, until I get it launched, maybe some different little group things to connect with you and help you. So more than just, you know, what I'm doing here on a live once a week. So feel free to join in there. If you're looking for a community, because community creates synergy. Even just like you're on here with me, right? But this is just going to be, you know, like I do this once a week right now for this time period. The membership will have some live calls at different times, on-demand videos to help you with the different pillars that help you in your path of awakening and stepping into your true creative self. So Mother Mary really has been telling me how important this is to truly help people with this, because it's so important. Hi, John. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. What do I think? I think what I want with God's help. Oh, okay. I think I understand when I read it out loud. Okay, yeah. You know, that's kind of like when I talk about moving myself aside. Like, all right, I'll ask my spirit guides, ask God and spirit, like, what is your guidance of what, you know, like, what's the highest for me to do, or, you know, because I want to come from truth, not from my fears, because so many people make decisions from their fears. I'm curious if anybody does that, you know, like they think that they're doing something that is logical and responsible, but they're actually doing it because they're fearful. You know, and we justify it in our minds. And that's what Mother Mary wants you to really get honest with yourself about. So, John, I appreciate you really asking about that truth part, because then Mother Mary started flowing through about practicing satya, and it really is important, because, you know, we make up stories to justify what we're doing out of our fears, so we don't know, so we don't feel bad about doing what we fear. But the truth is that if you're having fear, it's okay. You're wired for that fear. And you don't want to think that you're a bad person because you're having that fear. You want to, like, honor yourself and say, okay, well, what are you needing right now? You know, because if you're fearful, it's those fears, those anxieties, those worries are communicating to you something you need. And what your job is as that spiritual soul is to start to be present with yourself enough to go, what is it? that I need. You know, and if you were raised anything like I was, you won't know what that is, because I was told often to stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about, because I'm a highly sensitive empath that would easily cry if I saw someone else crying, or something made me sad, or something hurt my feelings. I would cry. And so I had to learn how do I undo what's been done, because it's not true. My feelings. You know, and how you know at some level you've been programmed with that, do you apologize to people when you're crying? You know, I mentor clients and sometimes they cry and things, and have done classes when sometimes people will cry. You know, we've done programs, my wife and I, doing programs and trainings, and you know, even though, like, I'm not someone who, I tell people, like, I'm not, when people work with me in mentoring, I'm not a therapist, but there's a healing component to growing spiritually. And that, so sometimes people cry. And you don't know how often I hear people apologizing for crying. And I tell them, you don't need to apologize for crying. I'm totally okay with you crying. Crying is like human and natural, so there's no need to cry. So I'm curious if anybody's, I know what medium people, if you're new, I know what some people do, but Rainbow, I don't know if you're still on, if I know what your medium, your creative projects are. You might have said it, but you know, I don't remember it at this point, just because, which I don't expect people necessarily. I love it if they're on every week, but I know people have lives too. Curious is what it is. How do you be courageous? Yeah, John, it's true. You know, how do you be courageous? Willing to do it right, to do what's right no matter what you're feeling. And I think part of it, there's a couple different things here. This is a bigger question I can probably answer in just a few minutes, but I'm going to answer it the best I can, because I do have to get off today at 4:30 because I have a 5 o'clock appointment, so I have to clean up. But the first thing about being courageous is you don't want to project into the future what's going to happen when you actually do what's true for you. Okay, and then it's about how do you, like, what's more important for you, to be in integrity with yourself, or to do things because it makes other people comfortable. And when you start to understand the spiritual truth that of satya, of how important it is to practice honesty with yourself, you start to realize that that's the most important thing. Because honesty, if you're not being honest with yourself and doing what's true for where you are in your development, you will only struggle. So it's so important to always be in integrity and be practicing satya. It's a practice, not something that, you know, the thing about courage is you're only courageous when you have fear. And so you have to be willing to go, I know I'm going to have this fear, But what's most important for me to do is to follow what's true. And I have a commitment to that. So for me, I have a commitment to follow what's true. Doesn't mean it's always easy for me. Sometimes I'm afraid, but I go, I'm going to do it anyway. It's like when I if you guys have heard me share my story about when I was told to put on my website that I can see someone's spirit guide that's with them, and to put it up on my website, I was really afraid because I didn't know if I could do it. Even though they gave me a download of, here's how you're going to do it, I was like, I hope I can do it. But I had this commitment at that point to follow divine guidance. My wife and I had been following our divine guidance of where we felt like we were supposed to live, and we would move. I'd sold my house in California, even though it was really hard for me to sell it because I identified as a homeowner. And I was like, well, I'm getting divine guidance to sell my house, and we're supposed to be moving. And we moved into an ashram for 6 years, and then we moved down to Southern California for 4 years. And we, it was scary and hard to let go of that definition of I'm a homeowner. And we sold the house because we thought, well, if we're going to follow divine guidance, it would be easier to do it instead of having to sell a house every time we felt guided to move. And so, that was that stage. And so the courage was that my commitment to be in integrity with following my divine guidance, because the most important part to me was being true to myself and following the higher guidance I was getting from God, from Spirit, from Divine Mother. Because I call God all those different names depending on whatever I'm feeling divine guided by and inspired by. So. Ooh, Rainbow, you have some nice different things you do. You have quite a few things. Wow. Wood, that's great. Painting. Maybe you've shared that maybe. Or maybe there was another person who did it, because it does sound familiar. I'm glad that you treated yourself, John. I don't get what you mean to me when you're getting there. So you might want to clarify that for me. I'm not sure what you mean by you're getting there. I was going to try to finish this left side, but I'm not going to be able to get it done. I'm going to have to wait till later. So I will be having another live next Thursday. I don't know what the topic will be because I haven't been given that guidance yet. And the topic I got today was actually a little different, much different than I thought it was going to be. And that's the amazing thing about when Spirit speaks, is that often when it starts coming through, I'm like, oh, this is not what I expected it was going to be. But that's good. The unexpected. Thanks, John. So, any last little question or anything before I'm going to sign off here? I got like another couple minutes, but then I'm going to be getting off. So if you have something, a question or comment or a share, feel free to put it up there. I'd love to hear if you practice what I've been talking about, like what your experience is, because it really is about, what really transforms us is the experience, not just hearing what I'm talking about, but actually trying what the spirit guides say, because, transformation happens through repetition, through experience, through healing. And so, and then, acknowledging it, sharing it when you my first time I'm doing this. I tried actually live streaming into Instagram along with what we're doing here on YouTube. First time I did that. So, see, they disconnected after an hour. I didn't think I was on more than an hour. All right, doesn't look like there's any other questions. Thank you to everyone who showed up live. It's always a blessing for me, and I hope it's a blessing for you and that what I share with the spirit guides. I look forward to seeing you next week if you like this. And again, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If you know of anybody this would help, be a blessing in the world, and please share it. Also, if you give me a thumbs up, it all helps my channel. And turn on your notifications. So I'm showing you all my little artistic things I do because I love creating, especially my little thumbs up. I did it with clay. It was so much fun to do. Oh, Lil, thank you so much. I'm so glad it's a blessing for you. Oh, Rainbow, you actually drew with us here. Yay! It's now, this is one of the things that why I was guided to do this live was to really help people have a space they can do their creative work so that we're creating this synergy effect. So, Rainbow, thank you for sharing that because it makes me feel like, yeah, I'm doing the blessings that Divine Mother told me to do. All right, people, we'll see you next week. Take care, and I'm so glad that you had a great time, everybody. Bye-bye.